This is a satsang of questions and answers. Swami Brahmananda will ask the questions and I'll try to answer. Om.
Om Swamiji. Are desires the problem or the attachments to desires?
Nothing is a problem. A problem for whom? You see, when we say are desires a problem, the question should be, desires are a problem for whom? Are attachments of a problem? Attachments are a problem for whom? Many of us believe that desires are a boon and attachments are a greater boon. Many people believe that without desires we could not function. And without attachment our life will be dry. And without fragrance and taste. So if you aspire to attain self-realization, you need to understand the meaning of desires and the meaning of attachments. So the reason that we are born, according to the yogic teaching, is because we have desires. These desires are the main reason for birth, are the main reason for life. We are born in order to fulfill many, many desires. And as we live our life, we generate new desires. And the problem with desires is that they can never be truly fulfilled. This is the main problem. As we go to our lives, not to one life, to our many, many lives, we learn that desires cannot be fulfilled. And in the long run, they bring suffering. And so we learn that attachments cannot be resolved. Because attachments are like addictions. And in the long run, they bring suffering. In fact, if we would understand the meaning of desires and the meaning of attachments, we will try to find out a way to transcend them. Desires cannot be fulfilled because most of the desires cannot be fulfilled in the present. So many of us live the mortal life. We die with most of our desires unfulfilled. And unfulfilled desires, as you know, bring about suffering. The second problem with desires is that even when they are fulfilled, the satisfaction of fulfillment is momentary, very short. It's exhausted very fast. And the third problem with desires is that even when we fulfill them, that fulfillment is not satisfactory. We aspire for a greater fulfillment. The moment of happiness that we get when we fulfill a desire generates a new desire and a desire for a greater happiness. We are never satisfied with the amount of happiness that we get. The third thing is desires have a tendency to multiply. So we fulfill a desire and it dies, but then 10 other desires are being born and they multiply. So we end our life with most of our desires unfulfilled, frustrated, and with a certain level of joy and happiness which is misunderstood. As for attachments, they are like shackles. If you meditate on, or if we meditate on our own attachments, if we make a list of these attachments, if we write them in a notebook, and we ask the question, these are my attachments, how many more I would like to have? The answer will be not many more. Probably the answer will be not even one more. Because attachments are addictions. One attachment is one shackle. Many attachments are many shackles. How many more would we like to have? Don't we suffer enough? And attachments have no solution. They only bring pain and fear. So are desires. But desires also are motivators for human life. So initially desires motivate us to act. And action eventually will lead us to the purification of our mind and eventually to knowledge, which brings liberation. So when we look at desires on their own, they bring suffering, but they're also impellers of actions. They motivate us to act, and action ultimately will lead to purification of the mind, which in turn will lead to knowledge of the self, which will lead to spiritual liberation and attainment of the highest good, of that happiness that we all strive for. So to summarize, yogis say that indeed desires and attachments are the culprits. We have to transcend them. They bring suffering. But when we look at them, they also motivate us to act, motivate us to generate karma, motivate us to learn, motivate us to experience creation, motivate us ultimately to purify the mind, motivate us through suffering to aspire for spiritual liberation, motivate us to practice yoga, and ultimately motivate us to gain knowledge and to be liberated. So those desires have two sides. And we can say that they are indeed negative because they are a cause of suffering, the main cause of suffering. But on the other hand, they are also generators of things which in the long run will bring our liberation. Liberation from desires, liberation from attachments, and liberation from suffering. So this is how I see the subject of desire. So for advanced yogis, desires are something to be transcended, and it's urgent for them. For beginners, desires are divided into undesirable desires and desirable desires. In the beginning, we need to discern between undesirable desires, desires which lead to more suffering, and desirable desires, desires which lead us towards actions that will liberate us from suffering. So for beginners, this discernment between desirable desires and undesirable desires is very essential. So for beginners, who are the beginners? It may take 1,000 lives of practice of yoga to be considered an intermediate yogi. 1,000 well-lived lives where a person practices yoga will lead the person to a point where he or she are not a beginner anymore. So we spend a long time in the beginning stage of the practice. And in that stage, it's important to discern between desirable desires and undesirable desires. desirable attachments and undesirable attachments. For example, it's good to be attached to the practice of yoga, and it's good to be attached initially to a worthwhile teacher or worthwhile teachers, right? So to be attached to a good path and to a good teacher initially, not in the long run. It's good. So good attachments, good desires versus problematic desires and attachments that bring more suffering. So this is at the beginning. In the long run, all desires need to be transcended, all attachment need to be transcended, but these are problems of more advanced practitioners. Okay? I believe that I answered the question.
Om Swamiji, how do we know that we are transforming our lower emotions and thoughts and not repressing them?
Everyone knows what emotions are. The question was, how do you know that you sublimate emotions and you are not repressing emotions? So the answer is, initially you don't have the capacity to know. Initially we don't know how to sublimate emotions into devotion. So initially we may make mistakes and we may suppress emotions. And how do we know? Because we become frustrated, and instead of experiencing love, we experience frustration and anger and lack of satisfaction and restlessness and inner anguish and so on and so on. When lower emotions like lust, anger, greed, hatred, jealousy, fear, when these emotions are sublimated, they are sublimated into their higher form, and their higher form is love. And love is an experience that cannot be mistaken. Where there is love, there is no fear. Where there is love, there is no hatred. And you'll be surprised. Where there is love, there is no lust. Where there is love, there is no envy. You can feel it intuitively. Where there is love, there is joy, there is happiness, there is bliss, there is light. There is no anger, there is no fear, there is no jealousy, there is no envy. There is peace. And so what happens as we truly transform the lower emotions by the practices of karma yoga and bhakti yoga, the yoga of selfless service and the yoga of devotion, we experience more and more that love within our heart, and it's unmistakable. More and more inner joy, more and more peace, more and more courage, more and more inspiration, more and more intuition, more and more light, more and more knowledge. It's all coming. But specifically love. And love is the key to many things. It's a key that opens many, many doors. It even opens the doors to health. So this is how we know. More joy, more love, more light, more wisdom, more peace. Like this. This is how we know. But initially there are lots and lots of frustration because we are beginners. So we make mistakes. We suppress instead of sublimating. So there are yogic methods to sublimate lower emotions into devotion. And these are the practices of karma yoga, the yoga of action, and the practices of bhakti yoga, the yoga of devotion. These are the main practices that sublimate the emotions. And it's very worthwhile to learn these practices and to apply them. It's very, very, very worthwhile. So do not despair. Yoga is called the short path. It's the shortest path to attain self-realization, but you cannot measure it by one lifetime. If you are keen and sincere, you can complete the path in one lifetime. I don't say no. There are people that did it. But we need to understand it takes time. Along the way, we will make mistakes, and it's fine. It's okay to make mistakes. But the main thing is to learn from the mistakes and to prod on, to continue, to understand that my present experience is not the final experience. It's just the experience of a practitioner where I'm trying a practice, and in the beginning I'm not so good at it. But along the way I am becoming better and better. We just completed a festival of Hindustani classical music and dance. And wonderful musicians were there, and also we had some great masters. And one of the greatest living masters of the Hindustani classical music was the late Ali Akbar Khan. I don't know how many of you heard of him, but he was well known. And within the world of Hindustani music, he was considered like a god. Even the late Ravi Shankar looked up towards him. And I had the opportunity to sit with him and to talk with him many years back at Valmoren when he came to sing for Swami Vishnudevananda. I sat with him, and myself and another Swami, we asked him a few questions. We asked him if he loves to play the sarod. The sarod is his instrument. And he said, during the first 50 years of practice, I hated it. During the first 50 years of practice, I hated it. I started to love it after 50 years of practice. And we asked him how many hours a day he was practicing. And his father was a legend. His father was also the guru of Ravi Shankar. And his father would run after him with a stick in the streets to beat him because he didn't do his practice. We asked him, how many hours a day you were practicing? And he said 16 hours a day. So for 50 years, practicing 16 hours a day, he hated it. But then it opened, and all the gifts that are hidden in the music opened for him. So then he loved it. So you see that practice is long. It's not a short thing. It's not the way we think. And so is with the practice of karma yoga. So is with the practice of bhakti yoga. We practice, and in the beginning there is the frustration of the practitioner. Because if you are not a practitioner, you'll not be frustrated. But then we become better and better at it, and we start to enjoy the fruits. And the fruits are many. So I think I answered the question.
Om Swamiji, what is jealousy and what is its remedy?
Envy and jealousy, it's a low emotion. It's one of the 6, the yogis call it an inner enemy. It's one of the 6 enemies. In our system, we talk about 6 inner enemies. lust, anger, greed, hatred, jealousy, and fear. Jealousy and envy are similar. And in jealousy, sometimes you are sad about the happiness of another person. Because another person is happy, it makes you sad. You are miserable because another person is happy. And you are miserable because the lot of another person is good. If you are a yogi, one of the first practices of meditation in Raja Yoga is a practice where you meditate on friendship. One of the meditation is that when the lot of another person is better than yours, this is how you meditate. How wonderful, like this. How wonderful that the destiny, the fate, the lot of this person is so good. How wonderful that he's happy and joyful. Like this. So we learn in yoga to neutralize jealousy, because in jealousy it's the opposite. In jealousy it's I'm so miserable because you are successful, and I would really like to see you destroyed, or at least diminished to my level of misery. Something like this. It's just a variation. There are many, many variations. So we apply the antidote of meditating on friendship, on generating joy about the fact, look, this person is so successful, it's so wonderful, it's so happy, it's so wonderful. So we do it consciously in our meditation. We apply the antidote. But jealousy is instinctive. And in yoga, when it rises, immediately we apply the antidote, that meditation. Maybe Swami Brahmananda, one satsang will take just that meditation and we'll talk about it. How to that meditation has 4 parts. And it's a very good antidote to toxic emotions like jealousy. Maybe one of the satsangs you can teach everyone that meditation. Huh? Okay.
Om Swamiji, what is the yogic approach to grieving over loss of a loved one?
It's good to know, first of all, even before it happens, because all of us are going to go through it. One day we are going to shed off our physical body. This is going to happen, and under normal circumstances it's going to happen. The other day I was sitting with Krishna Das, and he was telling me stories of saints that he met in India. He was talking about a saint, and he said that saint left his body at the age of 1,200 years, like this. And he met another saint, 260 years old. It's wonderful. The point is, after 1,200 years, that saint passed away. So it's the same from my point of view. It's the same. What's the point? The point, if you have a good life, a life of sadhana, fine. But otherwise, what's the point? So all of us are going to shed this physical body. So it's good to know that we don't die. I mean, the physical body surely disintegrates, but we will not die. This is a fact. You may believe it, you may not believe it, it doesn't matter. even if you like, you cannot die. So these are the good news or the bad news, I don't know. Some people may like it, some people may not like it, but these are facts. So we don't die, we continue, and we live many, 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 many lives, some of them physical, some of them not physical, many bodies, many genders, many types of existence according to our karma. We meet each other again and again and again and again until we learn our lessons, and then we move on. So, and still, when a loved one passes away, it's extremely painful. And even Lord Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita that even the wise one, even those that know, even they suffer tremendously when someone dies. Even people that know that there is no death, they also suffer. So it's good to prepare ourselves even before it happens to the truth, to the fact that this physical body will pass away and the physical body of other people will pass away, but there is no death. The more we know about this, the better. Nevertheless, we may face anguish and sorrow and so on. And when this happens during the time of grieving, it's good to be among loving people, supporting people that will help us. And it's also a good time for yogic sadhana. Yogic sadhana helps a lot. It will not remove completely the suffering. It's very difficult to remove the suffering of grieving. And it's not necessary to remove the suffering. What is necessary is to go to it in a good way. And a good way means in a supporting environment, and we call this a satsanga. During the time of grieving, it's a very good idea to come to an ashram. And in the ashram to do some karma yoga. So to serve others, to do some practice, and to be in a supporting environment, and to be exposed to teachings that remind us of the immortality of our true essence. We are immortal beings. This is the truth. And pain will be there. But we are going to pass through this period of grieving in a much better way. So satsanga, to come to a place where you are supported mentally and spiritually and in many other ways. And it's a good period for spiritual practice. This is what I have to say.
Swamiji. How can one develop their obedience and commitment to their teacher and tradition so its teachings are kept pure?
It's not so much obedience. What did you say? Obedience and
commitment.
Yeah, it's faith. It's more trust and faith. We are with a teacher because we believe the teacher can guide us and give us proper instructions in the path of yoga and guide us towards the goal of the path, which is self-realization. And it requires faith. And if you have faith, and if you have trust, and if you have love towards your teacher, naturally you are going to follow the instructions of your teacher, because this is the reason why we come for a teacher. We come for a teacher in order to receive spiritual instructions and in order to put them into practice. We understand the path and we understand the goal of the path. And this is the reason why we come to a teacher. So it's not a matter of obedience. And what was the other word?
Commitment.
and commitment. It's a matter of faith, of trust, of love, of spiritual aspiration. This is why we come to the teacher, to learn, to receive spiritual instruction, to practice, to continue to learn, to continue to practice. We believe that our teacher completed the path. He can take us along the path to its goal. This is why we accept the teacher. And naturally, that obedience simply means that we try to apply the teachings to the best of our capacity. And there was a question about the purity of the teaching. The purity of the teaching means that we keep the teaching intact. So the teaching remain effective. The teachings of yoga remained effective for thousands of years because there were such good teachers and such good students. For thousands of years, there were wonderful teachers and wonderful students that kept the teaching pure, and therefore in the 21st century we enjoy the beautiful teaching of yoga like it was taught thousands and thousands years back. So this is the gist of it.
Swamiji, when forced into tamasic work environments, how can one maintain sattvic principles?
Tamasic means impure. When we are in an impure environment, how can we maintain the pure principles of yoga? Because the environment about which the yogi is speaking is his or her own mind. This is your real environment. While the external physical environment, that's your karmic environment. That's part of your karmic environment. So you are surrounded by your karma. We say we are surrounded by our prarabdha karma, by the fruits of our actions in the past. We are surrounded by them. In fact, when I look around me, everything that I experience is the result of my own karma, my own actions that I have done in the past. So this is what, so if I experience a tamasic environment, I experience my own karma. But at the same time, I have a mind, and in that mind, I generate pure activity moment by moment. So if the mind is pure, the moment the mind becomes pure, you will not be capable of seeing a tamasic or an impure environment. We see an impure external environment only because our mind is not pure enough. As the mind becomes pure, you are not going to see anymore an impure environment. And I'm not talking about the future, I'm talking about the present. So the ultimate solution for impure environments is purify your mind. What is the easiest and best way to purify the mind? Repeat the divine name, repeat the mantra. This is the easiest, the fastest, the most powerful method of purifying the mind. Another very powerful method to purify the mind is karma yoga. Apply the methods of karma yoga in your environment, whatever the environment is. And if you apply the methods of karma yoga, and if you constantly repeat the divine name, your mind will become purer and purer, and you'll start to see something strange, which is you will see less and less of an impure environment and more of a bright and pure environment. Eventually, your environment will be a kind of a heavenly environment because your mind is pure. So it all depends on the state of your own mind. And your mind is within you. Therefore, you have the possibility to purify it. You can change your situation here and now. Okay.
Om Swamiji, what is the significance of the 12 basic asanas and their order?
It's a long story. To make it short, there is a method of yoga which is called Raja Yoga. The purpose of that method is to learn how to meditate and to actually attain the capacity of meditation and of superconscious meditation, which is called samadhi. Through that yoga, we can attain all the higher states of consciousness and reach kaivalya, or spiritual liberation. So the Raja Yoga is called the yoga of meditation. And asanas are one limb among the 8 limbs of Raja Yoga. So the purpose of the yoga asanas, the purpose of these practices, is to help us to attain meditation, to help us to stop the thought waves within the mind and to purify the mind and to bring it to a state where we can actually meditate. So asanas are practices that were created for the purpose of meditation. And so the Raja Yoga, which is a method, has 4 sub-branches, 4 sub-methods. One is called Mantra Yoga, one is called Laya Yoga or Kundalini Yoga, one is called Hatha Yoga, and one is called Dhyana Yoga. Dhyana means meditation. So there are 4 sub-branches. So Hatha Yoga is a system by which we learn to control the thought waves within the mind and to attain meditation and samadhi by controlling the prana, by controlling the life force. And all the practices within Hatha Yoga are for this purpose. So Hatha Yoga is a school within the larger school of Raja Yoga, and it has the same purpose. How to attain meditation, how to attain samadhi. So within that school, we learn 2 types of yoga asanas: meditative postures for the purpose of pranayama, breathing techniques, and for the purpose of meditation, and cultural postures for the purpose of health, for the purpose of awakening the Kundalini Shakti, and for the purpose of bringing about eventually the capacity of meditation. So the original teacher of Hatha Yoga is Lord Shiva himself. He, according to our tradition, he created the world by assuming these cosmic postures or asanas. And it is said that he knows 8,400,000 asanas. And he created 8,400,000 types of species by assuming the different asanas. We are talking about a cosmic being and a cosmic creation and cosmic asanas. Then it is said he is the first teacher of Hatha Yoga. And he said that if he found that there are 84 asanas which are good for mankind. And he taught these asanas to his consort Parvati and to his first student, a human student, a great Mahasiddha by the name of Matsyendranatha. He was the first student, human student, if you want to call it so. And he taught to that student 84 asanas, which, according to Lord Shiva, are beneficial for human beings. And then, among these 84 asanas, some asanas are considered to be the most important, and others are supporting those main asanas. So Swami Vishnudevananda was a master of Hatha Yoga. He knew the whole system from beginning to end. And he taught us the 84 asanas that Lord Shiva taught at the beginning of time. But he also taught us the main asanas. So the way he explained it is, you have the main asanas and then you have variations. But really the variations themselves are also asanas. And so these 12 postures within the scriptures of Hatha Yoga, these are main asanas of great, great, great importance for the practice of Hatha Yoga. And then the reason for the order, there is a simple physical reason that Swamiji explained, which is to increase gradually the flow of blood and oxygen to all the parts of the body. So at the end of the practice, the whole body is well nourished by the flow of blood and by the supply of oxygen to all the parts of the body. And indeed, and at the end of a good practice of yoga asanas, you feel it. But there are subtler reasons, which are the real reasons, which have to do with the flow of prana or with the flow of the life force within the nadi, with the idea that at the end of a good session of Hatha Yoga, your whole body is infused with prana, with life force, every cell, every particle of your body, because the channels of the life force reach everywhere. And the reason of this order is because this is the natural flow of, this is how the prana flows in a complete cycle of asanas. There is a certain flow that has to be there, which we call the flow of creation and the flow of dissolution. So as you practice the yoga asanas, you are imitating the process of creation. And then at the end of the practice, you also go to the process of dissolution of creation. But this is advanced stuff. So Swamiji explained the practice of the yoga asanas on many levels. He explained it physically, explained the physical benefits. He explained it psychologically. And he also explained it spiritually, means he explained the real reasons within the system of Hatha Yoga. How by the practice of asanas, we open different blockages of energy, so the nadis, the channels of energy are open and are stretched, and the prana and the life force can flow nicely and permeate and infuse our whole body. So by the end of such a practice, we are ready for the higher practices, like the practice of pranayama, like the practice of meditation, and so on. So when we study Hatha Yoga, we study the many reasons of the practice of the yoga asanas. There are Ayurvedic reasons, and let's see, where is Lalita? Here is Lalita. She is the head of the Well-Being Center. There are Ayurvedic reasons. The Hatha Yoga scriptures are full with descriptions of the Ayurvedic benefits of the yoga asanas. Almost in every yoga asanas has an Ayurvedic benefit. And at the same time, the yoga asanas are removing the toxins from the body. They have a detoxification effect. In Ayurveda, we speak about 7 tissues. The yoga asanas are removing the toxins from all the 7 tissues of the body. And then they have an effect on the subtle level. They open, like acupuncture, they open energetic blockages from the nadis, from the channels of energy, so the energies can flow freely. and we speak about 72,000 channels. And also they have a special effect in awakening the Kundalini Shakti, the power, the divine power which lies within us that needs to be awakened in order to take the spiritual journey towards self-realization. So all these things are explained. So Swamiji taught not only the 12 main postures in that order, which is a specific order. It has a special purpose, as I explained. But he also taught what he called the variations. The variations are other asanas, which are also asanas. And when you look at them together, you will see the 84 asanas. In his book, Yoga Asana, Swami Sivananda actually names all the 84 asanas that were taught by Lord Shiva to humanity. And Swamiji also teaches the meditative postures, which are meant for the practice of pranayama and the practice of meditation. So all these postures are taught by him with full explanations. I hope I answered the question.
Om Swamiji. Our individual samskaras related to the collective mind.
This question has assumptions within it. Individual subconscious impressions. Okay, within the mind, there are impressions. There are thoughts, and thoughts generate impressions within the subconscious mind. So the question is how the individual impressions within the subconscious mind of the individual relate to the collective subconscious. For example, Carl Jung spoke about the collective subconscious. So the many minds within creation relate to each other like the cells of your body relate to each other within that organism which you call the physical body. They are interconnected, but we are not aware of it. In fact, within creation, everything is interconnected. There are many minds, and the totality of all the minds within a creation is called in Sanskrit Hiranyagarbha. Hiranyagarbha is the creator. The creator is the cosmic mind, which unites all the minds within a creation and projects that particular creation. So naturally, all the impressions within all the minds exist within that cosmic mind, and they are responsible for the generation of the creation. The creation is generated by the many karmas of infinite number of minds which reside in the form of seeds in the subconscious mind of each individual. So this is how we are all interrelated. We are all interrelated within the cosmic mind of Hiranyagarbha, the creator.
Om Swamiji. What is the meaning of non-dualism and what is the meaning of dualism?
Dualism means two. Non-dualism means not two. That's the meaning. Advaita, not two. Dvaita, two. So, the end of the Vedas is called Vedanta. Vedanta consists of the Upanishads. The Upanishads are scriptures that deal with the subject of what is the ultimate reality of everything that exists. What is the ultimate reality of the individual self? What is the ultimate reality of God? What is the ultimate reality of the world? What is the ultimate reality of everything. So then there are different schools of thought in India that explain the teachings of the Upanishads in different ways. So there are schools which explain that there is duality and multiplicity, means the world consists of many, and many are ultimate reality, or at least two. And there is a school which is considered to be the main school, that is called the Advaita school of Vedanta, the non-dualistic school of Vedanta. Advaita, not two. And that school explains that ultimate reality is only one. One in the sense it's not two, it's never two. And that one reality, which alone is called in Sanskrit Brahman, absolute reality. And that ultimate reality, through its power, appears as many. Like one mind appears as many in your dream. In the dream, there is a whole world consisting of many. But in reality, the whole world in your dream is nothing but the one mind that emanates or displays the dream world. In reality, in the dream, Swami Swaroopananda in the dream, and everyone else in the dream is the display or the creation of one mind. It's just that mind. So that's an analogy. The moral of that analogy is that ultimately, and this is what the Advaita Vedanta is teaching, there is only one self, one absolute reality. And that one, to its inherent power, appears as many. So in that school, it is said that ultimate reality is not even two, it's one. And the main question of that school is, who am I? What is the true nature of the self? And it is said that if you know the true nature of the self, you will know the true nature of God, and you will also know the true nature of the world, and you will realize that not only there is no multiplicity, there is not even two. There is only one absolute reality, which is the cause of everything. It is said, everything emerges out of it, everything is sustained by it, everything submerges within it, and there is only one, and not even two. Advaita, not two. Okay?
Swamiji, can we interact with each other on the astral level? For example, if we dream of someone, can they be there with us?
According to the yogic teaching, we have a physical body, then we have a subtle body or astral body, and we have a third body which is called the causal body. And during 24 hours we experience all the three bodies. When we are awake, we experience the physical body. In our dream, we experience the dream body, which is the astral body. And in deep sleep, we experience, in a way, the third body, which is called the causal body. The causal body is called causal because it's the cause of the astral body. The astral body, in turn, is the cause of the physical body. This is how we look at things. And each one of us has three bodies. So there are innumerable physical bodies within this creation, innumerable astral bodies. And as for the causal body, I cannot say innumerable, but we leave it like this. The causal body is neither one nor many. I cannot speak about it at the moment. And so the question was interaction between astral bodies. Now the astral body is the body of our mind. So interaction between astral bodies is also interaction between minds. So we know that there are, all the time there are interactions between minds, not just minds of people, but minds of people, minds of animals, and minds of plants, and minds of creatures which are above the human. So interactions between minds are there. What we don't know is that we have a life after the death of the physical body. Even when the physical body dies, we still have two more bodies. And most of our life, in fact, our main life is in the other two bodies. The physical body is like a shell. It's an external shell. So Lord Krishna calls the physical body something similar to the clothes that we are wearing every day, and at night we take them off. It's something very external. The astral body is the main body, is the body of the mind, is the body of the senses, is the body of the life forces. So it's a very important body. So there are many astral bodies, and naturally they are interconnected on what we call the subtle planes, the astral planes. We cannot count them. There are so many types, so many kinds. There is no end to the number of astral species. And so during the day, when we sleep, when we dream, we spend time in the astral world, and most of us don't remember what we did there. And some of us do. And if you do remember what you did when you were in the astral world, you will realize that you have a very busy astral life. Then when you progress in the practice of meditation, you become more and more aware of the astral world consciously. So unlike ordinary people, when you are dreaming at night, you are conscious in your dream, means you are conscious in your astral life, you remember many, many things. So the idea is that every single day, part of the day we live, if you look at it, you'll see that about 16 hours a day we spend in our physical body. We are aware of the physical realm, and then about 8 hours a day we spend in the astral world and causal world and so on. And this is as long as we are in a physical body. So this awareness develops naturally. And as it develops naturally, we become, even when we are awake, surrounded by the physical reality, we become more and more aware of the astral reality. And the astral reality is there, and we are not talking about just one astral world, because the astral world has many, many layers, many, many universes, many, many beings. And beyond it, you have the causal worlds, which cannot even be described. And of course, you have the physical world. So when we dream, sometime and many times, astral bodies interact. You call this a dream, but actually you are in the astral world and you interact with other astral beings. But you cannot discern between your dream as a display of your own mind and the interaction with other beings. In the beginning, it's difficult to discern. Eventually, when we become more aware of the astral world, we can discern between what is generated by our own mind and between other beings that interact with us. So you need, either you are born with this capacity, some people are born with this capacity, or this capacity develops through the yogic practices. It's not a goal in the yogic practices to develop this capacity, but it is a side effect. It does develop. Okay? So yes, we have a rich astral life, which many times is not very much similar to our physical life. It can be extremely different. We can have one type of physical life, and then in the astral world, it's a whole different story. I hope that I answered this question. It's a big question.
Swamiji. We learn that Ishwara is Brahman in association with Maya, and that Ishwara has Maya under his control. So beyond Maya, there is no Ishwara, and without Ishwara, there is no Maya. Who exactly is Ishwara?
It's not like this. This is very complicated. It's not like this at all. Ishwara is God. It's what we call God. Some call it God, the Godhead. It's Brahman is absolute reality. That absolute reality has an inherent power, which is called Maya Shakti. And through that power, that ultimate reality creates all the worlds, sustains them, and also dissolves them. And there is only one absolute reality. There are not two. So that absolute reality by itself cannot be described. It is said in the Upanishads that the mind does not reach there, the senses do not reach there. So if our mind does not reach there, if our senses do not reach there, it cannot be described. So we do not describe absolute reality. But when the absolute reality associates with its own inherent power, Maya Shakti, it has infinite divine attributes. Infinite, infinite, infinite. Because it has so many divine attributes that are displayed, we can think about it, we can talk about it, we can interact with it, and so on. And all creations, all the worlds exist within Ishwara. Everything, all the names and forms, all the worlds, all creations exist within Ishwara. He is the one that includes everything. They don't exist within Ishwara as a homogeneous reality. They exist within Ishwara as an infinite diversity. So Ishwara, or God, is the unity within diversity. When we say unity in diversity, we actually speak about God, or ultimate reality. Because unity in diversity is Ishwara. He is the one that there is not a second. And within that one, you have the infinite names and forms, all creation, everything, as diversity. So, Ishwara is the unity in diversity. He creates, he preserves, and he destroys the worlds, and he knows he's omniscient. Omniscient means he knows everything in detail, not just, he knows every samskara. He creates a world for every one of us, so we can experience the fruits of our past actions. Omniscience means the knowledge of everything in the smallest details. Everything, past, present, future. This is the mind of Ishwara. And he is omnipotent because he creates, he preserves, he destroys. And he's also absolute reality because there are not two realities. It's simple, actually. And that Ishwara is omnipresent. It's all pervading, everywhere. He dwells within every being as the very existence of that being. Imagine that if the self, Ishwara is the self, is the Atman. Ishwara, God within me, is called the self or Atman. But that Atman is not individual, it's omnipresent, it's all-pervading, it's everywhere in everyone. So God is within me as my innermost reality. My own existence means if he was not there, I could not exist. Nothing can exist because he is the very existence of everything. So he dwells within me as my innermost reality, and therefore, in meditation, if I go within, I can be in direct contact with Ishwara. I can realize the ultimate reality within myself as my own self, or Atman. But in Vedanta we learn that Atman and Brahman are one, means that pure consciousness, that pure existence, that pure bliss within me is identical with the universal consciousness, universal existence, universal bliss. Atman and Brahman are one, not two. That self is not individual. So, according to our teaching, if you search for God, you have to go within. Then you will also be able to see God outside, after you find God within. Now, there is an aspect which transcends our idea of God, and this is the aspect of Nirguna Brahman, mean absolute reality, unthinkable, inconceivable reality. Our mind does not reach there. Our senses do not reach there. So of course we cannot speak about it. This is how that absolute reality is by itself, without any attributes. And we can only be it, but we cannot comprehend it at all. So we only can comprehend it with attributes. So this is Ishwara. And Ishwara is God towards whom we have devotion, bhakti, love. But Ishwara is within us. It's within. It's not outside. This is where we're going to find Ishwara. So it's much simpler than the question. Because all you need to do is to meditate. I hope I answered. Swami Jules, keep it simple. Keep it simple. It's not. It's complicated if you don't practice. If you practice, it's not complicated. Okay. I think my time is over. Let's meditate.